Hello, this is Mike Suris from Dental Professional Labs in Maryville, Indiana, coming to you today to talk about scanning impressions and try-ins for dentures to submit to Dentsply, Sirona and the AvaDent portal. We're going to go over scanning impressions, scanning the try-ins, and how to convert them to STL format for submission. Now, just to make it clear, you do not have to have the open in-lab license that lets you take files from other systems in and put them out. The STL format is already in InLab 15 and InLab 16, so you can use that free of charge. It's available to you. Let's start a case simply by selecting Add New Order. We'll add the patient's name. I'm going to call it IMP1. Now we can only scan one arch at a time with impressions. We're going to make two separate files because if we scan the upper and the lower, we can't set the bite. There's no buccal bite to add, so it won't let us move forward to process the files. So we need to do the maxillary, then open up another file, do the mandibular. So I named that one Impression Max, IMP Max. Select Model and click on the maxillary. I don't have to worry about the base, so let's go forward, at which time our camera is going to turn on. Of course, it takes a second here. Now, something you're going to notice in software 16 is the camera stays on now. It just doesn't shut off as soon as you're done scanning. It does this in order to warm up the cameras for high precision, high detail scanning. More than what we need for the dentures. But now we're simply going to select jaw, capture reduced, and then over here in acquisition options, we need to select toggle impression scan. This little impression up in the corner is going to show, so we know that's activated. We also need to do complete reconstruction because we need to see the entire impression, not just the arch. We need to see the palate and the flanges. So let's go on. So we're ready here. So we're going to take our maxillary impression. Now you can see I've already sprayed it. I use the Cerac Opta spray. I really like the spray a lot. I know people feel it's kind of pricey. However, it goes on dry. I don't have to wait for it to be ready. I can see immediately what needs more coating. Of course, where I put my fingers, I have to reapply. Now, what they tell you is that if you apply Cerac Opta spray and it turns blue, you've used too much. So it's just a really, really light coating just to take the glaze or the glare off of it. Our scanner does not like anything shiny or anything translucent. So if you can get your doctors to use a scannable impression material, that's great. I mean, you're better off. But most doctors don't like to use it. So added expense, maybe be a little more difficult to use. Whatever the reason, they tend to stick with their polyvinyls. Now this is a polyvinyl impression done in a Wagner tray. The Wagner trays are customizable chair side. So the doctor can take the final impression on the very first visit, which will save them time down the road and make it easier on us. And of course, the key to any successful case is a good impression. So we're going to take our model. We mounted it on this black putty, and what this is blockout compound from Buffalo Dental. So it comes in a big box. It's fairly inexpensive, easy to use. You can use the blue tack that comes with your system, or some people like to use clay, modeling clay. Whatever you want to use, it'll work as long as it holds on. You can see this stuff is pretty secure. It's not an issue. So we're simply going to take it, place it on the arm with the anterior region facing towards the back of the mill, and we're going to select Capture Jaw, Capture Reduced, and press Start. We don't need to use Capture Area for denture cases because the STL file that it puts out is so large and so detailed, it's way beyond what AvaDent needs. They've analyzed our different STL outputs and feel that capture reduced and using the standard STL format puts out a great file for them to use. You rotate it around, see what's being captured. You can see it's doing a great job. You can see this is a case that has 4 locator implants. We can ask AvaDent to leave some extra relief in those areas so that when we manufacture the denture, the locators can be processed chairside by the doctor, or if you want to do it at the lab, you can do it that way also, using a little bit of quick cure or reline material. So we can take a look and check and see. Now we're missing a big chunk here, but we can click on it or double click on it and start filling those areas in fairly easily. This is a great advantage for the with the inEos X5 is that we can go in and fill in these missing images where our competitors cannot. They have to remount and start again. I clicked around the outside here because I just want to make sure I have the borders scanned real well. Now you can see there's a few little defects in the impression. We got a little bubble there and there, a substantial size one here. However, AvaDent will fix those for us. They know how to smooth them out and fill them in to get the optimal results from for our final restoration and for our try-in. Take a few seconds here to make sure we have everything we need. Okay, from this point we're ready to move forward because again we're not going to scan the lower impression at this time. So let's press continue and we can arrow forward and we'll start converting our images from digital images into a digital model. Takes a few minutes here. Now for people that are saying it's too slow, think how long it's going to take you to pour up this model. Measure your stone, mix it, pour the model, wait for it to dry, separate it, grind it. Once the calculations are done, we are in the edit model phase. So at this point we could use our cut tool to trim up the models and clean them up, but you want to be careful not to remove too much of the tissue or too much of the border areas. You might be even better off just letting AvaDent do it. If you're not comfortable with how much you trim, let AvaDent do it. They're happy to do it for you. But like I said, you can use your cut tool and just trim away excess material So you double click in to start, draw your line, and then double click to finish it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into export and select a file of where we're going to place it. Now we need to select STL file standard. We have STL standard, medium, and small. Standard puts out a good size file with enough detail for AvaDent to pick up everything we need. So we'll give it a file name, press save, and it exports to our folder. At this point, I'm going to open up a program called Mesh Lab. And what Mesh Lab is, it's a freeware program you can find on the internet. It's a program that you can use to open and view STL or mesh files. So STL or OBJ files. Now we put out STL files, but we can use it to open them and look here and verify that it's how we want them to be. So we simply open the file, press OK, and then we can rotate it around and look. And there's our STL file ready for export to AvaDent. Happy with that. So we'll close that. So we could save this now. Close it and save. And then we can move on to doing the lower. Now let's scan the mandibular. I've already mounted it in the putty, sprayed it. I think we got a pretty good coat on there. So in administration, we selected mandibular model, arrow forward. Now once again, when the arm comes down, we're simply going to place it on the holder. Make sure that we have something showing in the window. Capture reduce, capture jaw, capture reduce. We're going to go impression scan, complete reconstruction, and press start. Now, had I selected capture area to do this, it would work until it fills everything in. However, the file is going to be very large. It's going to take a while to do it, but if you want the whole thing to be automated and walk away, you can do it. Select capture area, select the whole area, the whole impression to be done in high definition, press go and go do something else, come back. You don't have to click and wait. If you click all the spots, it will follow you. It'll keep filling them in wherever you clicked. Now, for this case, I chose to scan the impressions. Had I wanted to, I could pour the models and scan the models just as easily. Your choice. It's a personal choice, whatever you want to do. To me, it's easy just to scan the impression, not even mess with pouring them. Take a look at what we have here. Again, we're in Edit Model, so we can use that cut tool to remove some of this excess. If you don't want to do it, you don't feel good about doing it, let AvaDent do it. Alright, so I trimmed it up a little bit, made it look a little cleaner. Again, AvaDent will go in and remove the bubbles, trim the borders how they need it. So again, we're going to go up to the Start button, select Export. From here, we're going to select Standard STL format. And let's put MAND1. Press Save. And again, we're going to go into, let's open up Mesh Lab again. We're going to import the mesh. And it's on our desktop. There it is. And you can check your file. Now, you'll see here when you use the export at the top of InLab, it only exports a shell. It doesn't do the base of the model or create a base. So if you wanted to print this, it wouldn't work. However, for making a denture, it works just fine with AvaDent. So we'll save the case. And close and return to our administrative page. Let's review impression scanning with the X5 scanner and Software 16. 1. Save each file, scan and save each file individually. You'll need to create one file or new case for each one. There's no buckle bite with these impressions. Consequently, there's no way of establishing a relationship between the two of them. AvaDent will use known landmarks and measurements that's provided by the dentist to create virtual bite rims. This is done much the same way, when we make regular bite rims, analog bite rims, they do a virtual bite rim. 2, it's necessary to use some form of spray or powder, whichever brand you like. It doesn't have to be OptiSpray. Whatever you're used to using. The key is don't cake it on. Keep it thin so that you get a good fit. 3, in the scan phase, it's under acquisition options. Make sure you select impression scan. Remember that little icon will come on in the corner of the camera window where you see the teeth when you're scanning, or the impression when you're scanning. You'll have that little icon for impression scanning up there. Remember, in model options, select complete reconstruction. Most of your computers are set to reduced reconstruction. They default to reduced. If it scans under reduced, it will cut out the palate, the tongue area, or the lingual, or the mandibular. It's going to cut off the borders. So it makes the file smaller for crown and bridge and captures the area we need. But in dentures, we need more, removables, I should say, we need more information. So consequently, make sure you select Capture Reduced. If you should go forward and did not select it, you can always go back to the scan stage, unlock the images, click on the catalog, then change it to complete reconstruction, then arrow forward. It will recalculate with the data you need. Select capture jaw to use the robotic arm. People ask me if they could use the inEos blue to scan for removables for dentures, and yes, you can, but it's tedious. It's a lot of work getting everything to scan together correctly, where the X5 does it so easily. It's probably a good time to look to upgrade. Select capture reduce to keep the file sizes a little bit smaller. If you go capture area, it's high definition. There's a lot of triangles in the STL. It's more data, big files. Number 4, there's no special license needed in software 15 or 16 to export the STL model shells. They're not good for printing, but for what AvaDent needs, they work perfect. Number 5, remember that AvaDent will clean up and stitch the files together as needed. Don't worry about it if you have some extra material showing from the impression. They know exactly what they need, and they'll clean it up for you. And remember the number 6, capture the borders. You got to have those borders. If they're not there, the denture's not going to fit well, and it's not going to stay up. Patient's not going to be happy. Number 7, remember the key to a successful digital denture, as well as any dental restoration, are good impressions from the beginning. Now that the impressions had gone to AvaDent and they did the setup and sent it back to us for milling, or if you went with AvaDent engineered, they sent the try-in back to you. So this is one that we did in-house. So it's a Wagner try-in, and you can see the 6 anterior teeth were set up with Eclipse material, which works nice because the doctors can warm the material and make any adjustments. But what we need to do now is scan this and send it back to AvaDent so they can make the final adjustments and create the final prosthesis. Whether it's AvaDent engineered, which they complete the whole thing, or AvaDent design that you do in-house. So the doctor took a bite and established a relationship. I asked him not to put bite material over the anterior teeth. In this way, we can take our buccal bite and establish the vertical relationship between the upper and lower. Now, what we also need to do on this is we're going to have to take 4 images of this, four sets of images. We're going to have to take the occlusal side, maxillary and mandibular, and the intaglio side, maxillary and mandibular. So there's actually going to be 4 STL files going back to AvaDent to create the final restoration. So what we're going to do is we're going to powder this, we're going to take our buccal bite, and then we're going to go on and do the rest of the scanning. So we'll apply some powder. Very light coat. Add the new case. And this time we are going to select models, upper and lower. Press OK, arrow forward. We have a scan bag here that we can use to stabilize it. If you don't have one of these, I would recommend find a bean bag or make one. You can get an old sock and fill it with corn or beans or something. Just it really helps to stabilize setting stuff on the bottom here. So it's telling us that it's going to move the arm. But I'm going to send the arm back up because I want to do my buccal bite first. Because I want to do that before I separate all this. So select buccal. The arm's going to go back. I'm going to take my bean bag here. You see it works real nice for stabilizing this. So we'll get everything centered. And there's our buccal bite. So now we're going to go up into Add Catalog and select BioReference Lower and BioReference Upper. Remember, select BioReference because we do not want these to stitch together. AvaDent will do that for us. So we're going to separate these. Very simply, I'm going to take my putty, press the denture into it lightly, and now I have to powder that. See, again, a very light coat. I can look for anything shiny, lightly dust it. Alright, so let's select upper jaw, and we're going to use capture jaw, because we want to use the robotic arm. Place it on the table with the anterior teeth facing the back of the scanner. We're going to select capture jaw, capture reduce, and press start. Again, we're going to go with capture reduced, keep the file size down. Okay, so it's completed. Let's check the scan, make sure it has everything we need. So we're set there. One little image there. That will be crucial. I'll pick it up. Alright, so press continue. Let's go on to BioReference Upper, where we're going to do the intaglio side of the maxillary denture. So I'm going to just pull it off here, flip it over, lightly press it in, make sure we don't have a putty stuck inside, and again apply a powder. And visually check for any shiny spots where I place my fingers, and set it back onto the arm. Capture jaw, capture reduce, press start. Now, something we want to check in all of our scans is that complete reconstruction is selected. Right now it's ghosted out because it's scanning. But we want all of our files to go complete reconstruction, not reduced reconstruction. Reduced reconstruction is going to remove the palate, the lingual, and the mandibular. It's going to remove the base of the model, where we lose a lot of the critical data that we need. Take a quick look. Everything we need is there. All right, so now we're ready to move on to our mandibular arch. Same process. Simply pull this off. We're going to put the mandibular occlusal side up. And I can see with the Wagner try-in, we place bite blocks on the lingual of the mandibular. These 6 teeth are actually milled out as one piece. So if the doctor moves them, he has to move all 6. The maxillary 6, or I should say the maxillary 8, are actually done individually. So they can all be manipulated and changed. So we're going to select lower jaw. Again, we have to apply the powder. Light coat. We're going to go capture jaw, capture reduced, complete reconstruction, and press start. Okay, that's sufficient for the lower jaw. Take the plate off. We're going to turn the denture over, the mandibular denture over. Again, we need to apply powder. Place it back on the arm. Select file reference lower. Same thing, complete reconstruction, capture jaw, capture reduce, and start. Fill in a few spots. Alright, so that's complete. Press continue and arrow forward and let our models calculate. Now that the images have been converted to digital models, we can go ahead and edit them a little bit, clean them up, make it a smaller file to send to AvaDent. So let's use our cut tool. Just simply trim away any excess that's along the bottom here. Hopefully you're familiar with using the cut tool. If you see after you make a cut, there's a ghost image left behind. That's simply just to make sure it didn't delete the wrong piece. If I click on this piece here, it tells it that that's the piece I want to keep. However, this is the piece that we want, so we'll click there. Once I start another cut, that ghost image will disappear. Then the only way to correct it is to go up to Reset Model and start again. So there's the lower jaw. Let's take a look at the upper jaw. Not too much here, but we'll clean it up. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, leave it alone. AvaDent's happy to do it for you. The bioreference lower, which is the intaglio surface. Okay, so our bioreference lower is cleaned up. Do the bioreference upper. Alright, so our models are ready. So let's save the case before we do anything else. To export the models, we're going to go to the Start button in the upper left corner, select Export, find the file we want to export to, change it to the file format, change the file format to STL standard. So give it a name. Press save. Let's take a look at the STL files that we created. We'll open Mesh Lab. Import mesh, find the file that we exported to, select the upper and lower jaw, You can see where they stitched them together. If we were to import the biogeneric files, you see they won't articulate together because they were not stitched together using the buccal bite. So those files are the ones that AvaDent will take and stitch together for you. So don't worry about them not being together. Again, we're going to send 4 files to AvaDent. Let's review the notes for scanning of digital denture try-ins. 1. You need to create 5 catalogs in the scan phase. You need buccal bite, lower jaw, upper jaw, bioreference lower, and bioreference upper. It's important that you use bioreference in order to scan the intaglio. We don't want these files to try and stitch together. We want to have AvaDent do that for us. 2, you're probably going to need to use some kind of powder or spray to knock down the glare, and anything that might be translucent needs to be covered up. 3, in the scan phase, it's necessary for the following settings. In model options, you need complete reconstruction. If you go to reduce reconstruction, you're going to lose a lot of the areas that are critical for dentures. Remember that most of the inEos X5 scanners are set to reduce reconstruction by default, so you need to go and select complete reconstruction. You want to select capture jaw to utilize the 5-axis robotic arm. Again, trying to scan with the inEos Blue or to scan these manually is very tedious and hard to do. Let the robot do it for you. C, select capture reduce to keep the file sizes smaller. We need to keep them small so that they can be sent easily. 4, there is no special license required to convert the STL scans. Both InLab 15 and 16 have the ability to export STL shells. 5, AvaDent will clean up and stitch the models together for you. You don't need to do it. You can clean them up if you want to, but if you're not comfortable with it, by all means let AvaDent do it. 6, when scanning the intaglio surface, be sure to completely capture the borders. Again, if you don't capture the borders, the denture is not going to fit well. You'll have an unhappy patient and an unhappy doctor. We've talked about scanning impressions, scanning try-ins, how to convert the files to send them in. The other type of registration that we need to talk about are bite rims and how to scan those and transfer the records onto AvaDent. So I have a set of bite rims here that the doctor submitted, and I've already powdered them for sake of time, but you can see the midline and the cuspid line and the lip line here are all marked. So I got my fingers on it, so I'm going to apply a little bit more powder. Again, I like to do the buccal bite first because they're already glued together, or luted together, waxed together. So I would prefer to do that while they're joined, and that way I don't have to try and piece it back together after I'm done scanning everything. So in administration, again, you can go and click model and click on both of them. But the other thing you do, you can go straight up to scan at the top, and that will move on to the scanning stage. So it says, please check the ground plate. So we're going to press OK. Again, remember, we need to do a bioreference lower and a bioreference upper. So we're going to select buccal first, and that's going to send our arm back up. So I'm going to use a scan bag here to stabilize it. Wait for it to refocus. right? Take one image. I'm going to take a couple extra images. So I want to capture the border of both the maxillary and mandibular rim. The reason I want to do that is it's going to give a little bit more of a landmark to help stitch the models together. We're talking about two pretty smooth surfaces with a couple marks. It's just, I'd rather give it a little bit more detail, something to work with. So that does it for our buccal bite. So now I'm going to carefully separate these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the maxillary occlusal side down. I'm going to do the bioreference first, simply because I'm worried about putting the impression material side down and then turning it back over to do the intaglio side. So I'm going to take our ceric powder and just brush it on the inside. Again, whatever medium you like to use to take the glaze off, whatever works best for you, it's fine. Of course, they recommend the ceric powder, but it's not a requirement. Okay, so this looks like it's set, ready to go. So now I'm going to select bioreference upper, and then I'm going to select capture jaw and capture reduced. Again, we have complete reconstruction selected over here. So we should be set to go. So we'll press start. Now, as you can see, the doctor did a reline type impression on these bite rims because we did not use a stabilized or milled base plate or something that was formed on the final model. So a vacuum press bite or base plate is not stable enough and will not give a good enough fit, the final fit. So it's best to have the doctor just take a reline impression like this. That way the patient kind of knows how it's going to feel at the very end. Again, it's digital. We're going to mill this out. Let's fill in some data. Okay, so that filled in pretty well. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to press continue, pull the plate off. Now I'm going to turn the bite rim over. Push that back on. I'm going to carefully secure this. I'm going to take some spray. Alright, so now I'm going to select upper jaw. Place it on the arm. Again, same settings, capture jaw, capture reduced, complete reconstruction. And start. It's having a little trouble catching the labial surface here. I'll click around, see if I can get it to just stitch together. Again, it's a very flat surface, so kind of lacking in landmarks. So we managed to fill it in. Press continue and we'll move on to the mandibular. Same exact process. I'm going to do the intaglio side first. So we're going to select bioreference lower, capture jaw, capture reduced, complete reconstruction. I'm not really worried at this time about the outside of the rim. This is the intaglio surface. We need to get the impression. We need to get the borders captured real well. That's our concern on this side. On the other side, when we do the occlusion, then we need to capture the rim. So let's press continue. We're going to select lower jaw. We're going to flip the bite rim over. Powder it real well. Came loose on me there. A touch up. So I'm going to place it back on the arm. Press continue. Start. So now we have the information for the outside of the mandibular bite rim. We should have enough information there. So let's press continue and arrow forward. So the models have finished calculating. Now we can do a little bit of editing or just convert them to STLs. The models have been edited. So now let's go in and check the occlusion to make sure the bite was set. And the only thing left to do now is to export it to the STL format so we can send it to AvaDent. So we'll go to the Start button, select Export, select STL File Standard, give it a name, press Save. Again, we can go into Mesh Lab. Import mesh. And there's the bite rims articulated, ready to go. Let's go over the notes for scanning the bite rims using the inEos X5. 1. In the scan phase, you have to create 5 catalogs, 2 per arch. You need one for the buccal bite, one for the lower jaw, upper jaw. You need a bioreference lower and a bioreference upper. Again, use the bioreference so it does not stitch together. AvaDent has to do this for us. 2. Due to the rims being made out of wax, you're probably going to have to use some kind of powder or spray. Your choice of what kind. Again, don't cake it on. 3. Prior to scanning, select the following settings. In model options, choose complete reconstruction. Most of the scanners, the inEos X5 scanners, are set to reduce reconstruction by default. So make sure you select complete reconstruction in the scan phase. Use the robotic arm by selecting capture jaw. Don't try and do this manually. You'll be wasting your time. Capture reduce will help to keep the file small and speed up the scanning process. 4. No special license is required to export the model shells in STL format. In Lab 15 and in Lab 16, both have that feature. 5, if you're not using a stabilized base plate, a reline type impression should be taken on the inside of each arch. 6, be sure to capture all critical surfaces when scanning digital dentures, borders, the palate area, etc. In order to send files to AvaDent, you need to enroll in a program with them. When you enroll, they will install a converter on your computer that will help compress the size of the files. You can reach AvaDent at 855-282-3368, or you can get more information at info@globaldentalscience.com. As we can see, the world of digital dentures is rapidly growing, and Dentsply Sirona, teamed with AvaDent, is leading the way. I'd like to thank Dentsply Sirona for giving me this opportunity to speak with you, and thank you everybody for attending.